We gave you the hitters, and now it's time for the pitchers. MLB Trade Rumors has non-tender candidates ahead of the deadline on Friday. So we're going to talk about the fits from pitchers for your Twins. This is Locked On Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hello again, and welcome back to Locked On Twins. I'm your host, Brandon Warren. You can unfollow me on the tweets at Brandon_WARNE. Follow me on the skeets at WARNE.BSky.social. I have been watching the Twins for 30 years, and if you look at my face, you can probably tell. He's Mr. Dave Brown. He is across the screen. He is a few states away, but we love him all the same. At Answer Dave Brown on the tweets, at answerdave.bsky.social on the skeets. Dave, what up?
When you said fits for the Twins, you were it was like our second take for the show, and you were having some trouble, and I started laughing because it was like you were having a fit.
Well, and you're being generous when you say second take. I think it was fourth. And so,
well, I don't want to reveal too much.
Shaking the cobwebs out this morning after a trying night of lack of sleep. So we're doing our best here. Exactly. Well, thanks for making Locked On Twins your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you for that, whether it's the premiere or just after the fact. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. If you were to give us a 5-star review and subscribe on YouTube, I will send you a baseball card or a few baseball cards. I sent this one to Mr. Dave Brown's daughter. It's a Ken Griffey Jr. Project 2020, and she loves it, near as I can tell. And
they're neat. They remind me of The Simpsons.
Yes, they do. And I have a couple, or at least one more of those that I can send out, and a few other fun ones, some of my duplicates. So, yeah, just DM me proof that you have given us a 5-star review and a subscribe on YouTube, and I'd be more than happy to send you a nice little care package of some baseball cards. If we didn't remind you, thanks for also checking us out. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day, and you can start the NFL season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and get started with $150 in bonus bets. If you win your first $5 bet, visit FanDuel.com to get started. Dave, we are going to, I don't know how long it's going to take because the hitter one took a lot longer than I was expecting, but we're going to dive into MLB Trade Rumors list of potential non-tender candidates. I got a couple things I want to cover before we get into that, though. One, Tristan McKenzie signed a deal to avoid arbitration with the Guardians, so he is no longer a candidate.
I see.
And I don't know if he would have been in the first place. And then, do you know, I think we missed this on Thursday. We recorded a couple shows, and I don't think I mentioned it in either. Do you know what yesterday was?
When all our troubles seem so far away?
Yes.
Today is my sister-in-law's birthday.
It was somebody else's 55th birthday yesterday, and I tweeted about it.
You did?
Ken Griffey Jr.'s birthday yesterday.
It was? Wow.
Yeah, so I'm going to need a moment just to kind of process that. No,
I have to sneeze.
Oh, so just, the player that I grew up watching from a national standpoint, Barry Bonds was a big star back then too, but being a fan of an AL team, the Twins, I saw a lot more of Griffey. And so Griffey was, I'm wearing my hat backwards. I'm sure that's kind of a unintended homage to him. But so Griffey was kind of like the national star that the AL fans got to watch when I was a kid. And so, yeah, him being 55, like it's not computing in my brain.
When he was he a rookie in 1989?
The 89, and you know who he actually lost Rookie of the Year to?
I have known, but I forgot.
Greg Olson, my former podcast co-host.
Right. Well, Greg Olson was, he was a closer
and
he had a sterling ERA and a good breaking ball, and he deserved it in a way. because Griffey being 19 years old or whatever he was, and being a pretty good player, it was remarkable. And I think if there was a little more egghead, a little more thought on that side, a little more analytical, hey, this guy's like, he's doing something that like 23-year-olds can barely do, and he's 19. Yeah, maybe we should give him Rookie of the Year, but whatever, it's all right.
Yeah. Olsen had the trust of manager Frank Robinson, which is kind of a big dang deal. So
that's kind of crazy too. Robinson, very old school dude, but he a guy that show me, do it, and then I'll believe you. Kind of a that kind of personality. I love Frank Robinson. I had a chance to sit next to him once at a Cubs game when MLB couldn't figure out what to do with him. He had this would be 1998 or so. He was actually in charge for a while of speeding the game up. Like, what can we do to find things? And he was sitting there taking notes, and he had a stopwatch, and he was. I was thinking, now it's okay that he's doing this. It just seemed like very kind of micro for a man like Frank Robinson, who maybe should have been commissioner. Maybe that commissioner seemed more his speed than this one problem that we have. But we're off track because it's Griffey's birthday. But Griffey, I had grown up basically by then. If he debuted in '89, which I believe is correct.
Yeah, he would have been 19 because his birthday November of 1969. So he would have been
crazy 19. To me that he was born in the same place as Stan Musial.
Donora,
Pennsylvania. Is that it?
Donruss, like the baseball card. I don't know. Donora, I believe it is. Yeah. I know where things. I like to look at maps and atlases and stuff. I would not have known that this place existed if not for Ken Griffey. And Griffey and Musial are from the same place. And Griffey's grandpa played on the same like Legion Ball or something team that Stan Musial did. I might have that off a little bit, but it's just the things that connect us are, it's just amazing to me sometimes, the little things that connect us through the years. But Griffey, I would have been 17. I was 17. My name was Brian McGee. I had a fake ID. And Griffey was kind of, there was definitely like a Michael Jordan vibe. There was sort of an attempt to both kind of make him the Michael Jordan of baseball, but also to not make him the Michael Jordan of baseball, because everybody realized that was kind of a silly idea. But from a marketing standpoint, he had his own shoes. He was cool and different because he wore his hat backwards and other things. And he just had that joie de vivre and all that for playing baseball. And just a great player. And actually, since I'm just not going to be too whatever with Ken Griffey, I would say that his final career numbers were a little disappointing, which is just nuts, because nobody should have those kind of expectations. So maybe they weren't disappointing. But what I'm saying is people thought he'd break Henry Aaron's record for home runs, and he didn't quite do that. And that's the kind of thing where we're looking for things to talk about with Ken Griffey. And it's like, well, what can we say about him that's true? And it's like, well, people thought that he'd be better than he was. That's nuts. That's really not fair. But it's true. Yeah. People did think that. Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, Donora, 20 miles south of Pittsburgh, and like 4,500 people. Not a big city by any stretch of the imagination. So anyway, starting pitchers who may be non-tendered before the deadline on Friday. We're recording this Friday morning and posting it Friday morning. So
I like all of these guys. There's something to like about every single one of them, and I'm not even exaggerating.
Yeah.
Tyler Alexander almost threw a perfect game. Paul Blackburn survived the Athletics. JT Brubaker was pretty good for a little while on the Pirates. Griffin Canning is like Mr. There's no way he's not going to be. See, this is kind of a reverse thing with Griffin Canning. He was traded to the Braves.
Yeah, why would you non-tender him?
Why is he on this list? But MLB Trade Rumors, they typically know their stuff. So that would be absolutely wild and crazy and silly if he gets non-tendered. But Griffin Canning is probably one of the better prospects on this list, going back to when all these guys were prospects. Aaron Savali, when the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie.
That's Savali.
Dane Dunning, he's got one of the funniest baseball pictures ever. He takes a very funny picture, Dane Dunning, and he was a pretty good prospect with the White Sox, a good like 4th, 5th starter. Anyway, not to like bogart all these guys, but I could see like if they were non-tendered, any one of them being interesting to the Twins.
Yeah, we'll just go through them. Dustin May, I think, is the best one from a prospect standpoint, but
that's true. You're right about that.
I can't really see the Dodgers not tendering him over $2.135 million or thereabouts. So this is the full list of names with their dollar figures. I'm eliminating Griffin Canning at $5.1 million and Tristan McKenzie at 2 and change, because Canning, I just don't think that's going to happen. I think it's Canning not happen. Tristan McKenzie already signed for under that number. So there's Rays lefty, I believe, Tyler Alexander at 2.8.
Yes.
Paul Blackburn from the Mets at 4.4. JT Brubaker of the Yankees, 2.275. Aaron Savali of the Brewers at $8 million. Dane Dunning at 4.4 from the Rangers. Austin Gomber of the Rockies at 5.6. Ben Lively of the Guardians at 3.2. Dustin May just a hair over 2.1 mil. Cal Quantrill for the Rockies at $9 million. Trevor Rogers of the Orioles at $2.8 million. Former Twins prospect Tyler Wells of the Orioles at 2.1. And then former Twins prospect Hosker Inwa, younger brother of Michael Inwa, not Quinoa, with the Braves, $825K. So of that list, I have Austin Gomber highlighted, and I think it's more my fascination with taking pitchers out of Colorado and seeing what they can become. There was a time, there's been a few pitchers. I'm learning this about myself. I've had a fixation on Rockies pitchers for a while, and it maybe started with like Ulysses Chassin back in the day. And then there's been Herman Marquez, there's been John Gray, Tyler Anderson.
I think Herman Marquez is still with the Rockies, isn't he?
Yes. I just mean though, like my fascination of what could that guy be away from them. I thought you could recreate like a Garrett Cole leaving the Pirates scenario with Herman Marquez. John Gray was another one where I'm like, you know what? Get him in a lab and see what happens. And, he's been more like, I'm thinking like he didn't leave and become Garrett Cole. He left and became like, I can't think of the name now. I've chosen a bad metaphor. But anyway, my curiosity with the Rockies pitchers extends in some regard to Cal Quantrill too. But of those listed, who do you like the best? I really don't think Dustin May is even going to be an option.
I'm not sure where he is. Where is he on his injury progression?
Right, and that's just it. He's been injured almost exclusively in MLB. So, I mean, even if he's close to returning, he's functionally a very young player in his big league career.
Right. Yeah, not a very he's not pensioned. But he might have a penchant for something. I don't know.
191.2 career big league innings over 5 seasons. So again, not a great number.
The thing about these pitchers, it's funny how quickly like Aaron Savali got to $8 million. It's like that guy was I don't want to say a nobody like in a mean way, but he was just a dude. Like some of these guys making 2 whatever million. I feel like Aaron Savali should be down there somewhere, but he's already at $8 million. So that's a guy that has been accumulating some pension funds, which sounds illegal. Mm-hmm. But who do I like the best? Sort of on your theme, I would say probably Cal Quantrill. I like the idea going to the Rockies and pitching is sort of like a domestic version of what Eric Fetty and other people did by going to Korea and pitching. You kind of work on stuff. It makes you a tougher dude. It makes you a smarter pitcher. I don't know like where anybody is on like a health kick. Like I love Trevor Rogers when he was the Marlins. I know how you like your Marlins prospects.
Yeah.
When Trevor Rogers was in the Marlins, I thought that guy, maybe he didn't have the highest ceiling, but he like had the highest floor and was the safest. But he's had some injury problems the last 2 years, and just last year, just that trade, the Orioles, they did it 2 years in a row. Mike Elias, 2 years ago, trades for Jack Flaherty. He's absolutely terrible.
Mm-hmm.
This year, he trades for Trevor Rogers. He's absolutely terrible. Why does he keep doing that?
It feels like the Orioles of old, where like Hayden Penn comes up and he's terrible. And
I don't even remember that guy. Who's Hayden
terrible?
Penn?
Liz, and there was who else? Brian Mattis, and then Jake Arrieta. I mean, they ruined so many pitching prospects back in those days, and it feels like now they've moved that to trades.
Oscar Inoa was a guy who got on a really good run, I want to say in 21, at the beginning of 21, and punched a dugout, I believe. And it's kind of all been downhill ever since. He's a talented dude. Tyler Wells, Twins fans know him because they lost him in another MLB procedural peculiarity, the Rule 5 draft. So that would be funny if Tyler Wells went back to the Twins. Although I don't think, again, we've been going back over this. I don't know how many of these guys none of these guys move the needle for me in a rotation. You know how you have your befores and your afters in the bullpen?
Yeah.
These guys are all befores. You know, they're guys who maybe you squeeze enough out of them and they help you as a third starter. I doubt it. Possibly as a fourth or fifth. The Twins don't really need upside there.
So basically what Ben Lively did for the Guardians this year.
Oh, and how would you like to be Ben Lively, who's kicking around like 48 teams over 3 years? And I don't know if he had Tommy John, but he missed, I know he missed the pandemic year and maybe one other year. He had some kind of horrible thing happen to him. And then he goes and like the Guardians are one of the reasons they had the lead that they did on the Twins is because of stuff like Ben Lively throwing a 3.81 ERA and 29 starts. His peripheral numbers weren't terrible, but they weren't that good. And they didn't trust him late in the season. If you noticed, Ben Lively didn't pitch very much down the stretch. I don't know if that was because he was hurt or they realized the bloom was off the rose here. But how'd you like to be that guy and like putting yourself in position to actually get paid and whatever, and then they non-tender you? I totally believe the Guardians are going to non-tender it, though.
Yes,
that's how they roll.
No question about it. Well, let's take a quick break, and we come back. We'll put a little bow on the starters, and then talk about the vast number of relievers may or may not be non-tendered on Friday. But again, just a word from our friends. And those friends are Gametime, or they're with Gametime. If you're looking for sports tickets, concert tickets, any sort of live event tickets, Gametime is your destination. Download the Gametime app and start toggling through events in your local market. So for me, Minneapolis, St. Paul, for Mr. David's KCMO. And you will be shocked at how many events are on there that you probably didn't even realize were in your backyard. Now, not literally in your backyard, but in your vicinity. And I'll bang the drum for that all-in pricing option. I click that, toggle that on. I know exactly what I'm going to be paying for the tickets that I'm looking at the end of the transaction. I don't like to be surprised by the price of tickets when I'm buying them. I like to be surprised if I'm at a concert and a second act comes out for an encore or some kind of fun thing. Those are the kind of fun surprises I like. I like a walk-off win at Target Field, but the bait and switch stuff with the pricing where I pay convenience fees that are convenient to everyone else but me, I don't like that. So Gametime helps you with that. You can also get your panoramic seat view so you know exactly what your view is going to look like of the stage, of the field, of the area that you're going to be looking at, which is a pretty awesome feature as well. Gametime will also credit you 110% of the difference if you find your ticket cheaper elsewhere or your same section and row. They will make sure you're taken care of with 110% of the difference. And they have the most flexible customer service policy in the game today. So take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB, and you'll get $20 off your first purchase. Now, terms do apply. But again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So, yeah, to put a bow on the starters, I was kind of in favor of Paul Blackburn coming over from the A's, and I still am not against that now that he's with the Mets. And again, if the Mets non-tender him, it's because they're big game hunting rather than, souring on him entirely as a player, because $4.4 million is not an insane figure to pay anybody. I don't know. I mean, each of these, when you try to predict, project, or guess what Derek Falvey and previously Thad Levine were going to do, chances are it would be an interesting move, but it would be something you weren't thinking of. Any one of these guys would fit that bill of, they're going to find a guy they think who they can improve his slider, or they can, with Cal Quantrill, maybe find a couple extra strikeouts and turn him into a 2 instead of a 4 or 5. Honestly, any of these guys, I could see them nabbing and then making, subtle changes to try and make them the best version of themselves.
Yeah, Quantrill did not have a really good season in Colorado. You can't offhand hold that against him too much because it's Colorado and Coors Field, and it's a very difficult place to pitch. But it was probably he led the league in walks.
Mm-hmm.
That's not good. It's also a little bit. It was kind of he wasn't a super duper control guy, but he was kind of always on the edge of having too many walks. And he doesn't have enough strikeouts to kind of make up for it. Pretty okay at home runs. That's okay. I don't know. He won 15 games once, and that's a phrase we don't hear for a lot of different reasons. That's not a good way to evaluate pitchers. But he put up an ERA until the last 2 years, a major league ERA of 3.54 in 471 innings. It's at least worth looking at. I don't know if I would say I probably would avoid all these guys. I don't think any of them are going to help the Twins other than finish 500.
Yeah, and I mean, if this is the road they're going exclusively, that's probably more emblematic of a top-down issue with them finding any way to add to this roster appreciably through trades.
And a deeper depression for the fans.
Yeah, no question about it. Well, let's do the left-handed side of relievers before we have our second break. I know we went long into our first one. We went long into our second one. These are fun episodes for me, and so I don't mind them going long because we get to cover a lot of ground and a lot of more just kind of like not exactly like the scene in Moneyball where they're all bouncing ideas off each other and then, Billy/Brad Pitt's doing this thing and Jonah Hill's in the corner doing Jonah Hill stuff. But it is kind of fun to just kind of bounce ideas off what we think of these players. Now, for lefty relievers, they listed the following players. I'll give their anticipated arbitration earnings from Matt Swartz as well. Colorado's Lucas Gilbreth, $900,000. Guardians lefty Sam Hentges, $1.4 million. If you weren't aware, he's a Minnesota native, so that could be an interesting angle to watch. And he's been hurt. Tim Mesa of the Yankees, $4 million. Hobie Milner of the Brewers, $2.7. Kyle Nelson of the D-backs, $800K. Colin Poche, $3.4 million from the Rays. Gregory Soto, $5.6 million from the O's. Gabe Spire of the Mariners at $900K. Jose Suarez of the Angels at $1.2 million. And then Alex Young of the Mets at $1.4 million. Now, I don't know if Hentges is even healthy enough. And again, I'm probably leaning too hard into the whole local angle thing, as you'll see with our right-handed relievers too. But as far as left-handed relievers go, if you had any reason to believe that Hentges was going to be healthy, that would be an amazing pickup.
I think that's a long-term investment.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you know what? He would have let's see here. He wouldn't be a free agent until after 2027. I'm in favor of that for sure, especially if you can get him. What do they have the number for him at? 1.4. If you sign him at a cool 1 or like $950K, that's a great deal for you.
I do worry about guys that have had major shoulder surgery, though.
Yeah,
he is only 28, but shoulders bother me more than elbows, like long term. I don't know if that's kind of a deal breaker, but he was looking pretty good. He put together, and even last year he was pretty good. So for 2.5 seasons, he had been very effective. So I don't know like what the long term prognosis is on his shoulder. That's the only thing that would, him being a local guy is a fun angle, and knowing that, maybe he's a long term project. Maybe that's a reason to do it. The funny thing about all these guys too, these left-handed relievers, they've gone through periods where most of these guys have been pretty effective. And, Hench's definitely, Hobie Milner's, wow, what a journeyman he's been on for a while. He's in his early 30s. He'd be good. If Rocco's dying for a relief pitcher, a left-handed one, Milner or Pache would be good. Meza would be okay. Hench's is a long-term. Gabe Spire has a great dog. I've met Gabe Spire's dog, very beautiful dog. Gregory Soto has great stuff. It's, I don't know how much he can rein it in. And the Orioles had some problems, getting him. The Orioles have some problems with some weird stuff. They make dumb trades and they get relief pitchers that should help them but can't. They can't seem to fix their problems.
Mike Elias
fix their problems.
Mike Elias may or may not be the anonymous GM on Twitter.
I can't believe that that's true, but I hate that account so much. I hope it's true because that account is trash.
It's so bad that, not to dwell on it, but there was a very recent tweet about a politician that was just so bizarre. Anyway, here's a fun one. I pulled this up because I was trying to remember how good he was this year as opposed to the year before. Hobie Milner did not have a good year this year. 4.73 ERA, 3.14 FIP. So you obviously see that he left some results on the table. But get this. The year before, he had a 1.82 ERA. He had 3.13 FIP. So 0.01 difference in FIP. His whip it bumped up 0.20. That's a sizable difference. But the strikeouts were less than 1 off. The walks per 9 were 0.1 off. The homers per 9, 0.1 off. He gave up a couple extra hits. That to me is a guy who, again, just that's the way the wind blows when you're a left-handed reliever. Sometimes you're a 1.82 and sometimes you're a 4.73, and not much has changed in your peripherals that should make that big of a swing. So will the Brewers balk at paying him $2.7 million? I don't know about that. The Brewers are kind of like the NL's answer for the Guardians, but I don't know if that's entirely fair. But
I like that analogy. That's a pretty good analogy. I think Hobie Milner's a guy who he's modeled a few. I think he's got 4 major league organizations and probably more in between in the minors. But I think he's a guy who sort of learned how to pitch with the Brewers the last 2 years, 22 and 23. They were very good seasons for him. And his peripheral numbers, if you look at his FIP, not that different. In fact, literally 1 point off his FIP from 2023. So he was pitching very much like he did in years before. I guess maybe one thing, it doesn't seem like it was overuse, but he's got 3 years in a row of 64 innings. And I also wonder if Hobie's a guy that had a lot of dry humps where they'd get him up and wouldn't bring him in. The Brewers, they're kind of like a junior, you mentioned the Guardians. I think the Brewers are more like the junior Rays, where they just kind of chew you up and spit you out.
There's a lot of connective tissue there, too. Milner was a Ray for a brief spell. But you made a good point, too, about Milner. 64.2, 64.1, 64.2 innings. That's like Chris Davis level consistency.
Right. Well, we're not going to get above 64 and 2/3. We just can't do it. So yeah, it's funny that he landed on that.
It's like if they did a bizarro version of the movie Speed, where the bus would only blow up if you went over 65 miles per hour. How funny would that be? Like, we can't go over 65, and you drive the whole route all day long at 64, and everybody's freaking out.
It is funny. It is funny. His stats are hilarious, though. How his innings are almost exactly the same. His strikeouts are almost exactly the same. His walks are almost literally exactly the same. But he gave up like 2.5 times as many runs as he did the year before. It's just funny how baseball do that to you.
Could you imagine explaining that to Twins fans on Twitter, though? Like the angry ones? Like this is baseball.
I don't want to imagine it. I live it.
Yeah. That's baseball, Susan.
I would, I don't know how he was throwing at the end of last year, like his pitch values and his velocity and all that, off the bat and stuff. So I would look at that, but I would think Hobie Milner might be a guy for Rocco, so he gets a lefty in the bullpen because that's what he wants for Christmas. Rocco wants a lefty.
A canister in every oven and a lefty on every stovetop. That's probably not a good.
This is weird. Platoon splits versus left-handed batters. 467 slugging in 105. That's weird and not really what you want. Let me look at 2023. So he's a lefty, but okay. So but 2 years ago he was killer. So lefty batters figured something out because 2 years ago he allowed a 400 slugging percentage against righties and 227 against lefties. So he needs a little bit of a tweak from the Twins pitching guru, Mr. Pete Mackey, and I think Hobie Milner can rejuvenate himself, and that's not unplayable against right-handed batters. So I think that could be Hobie Milner could be a guy, if not a dude.
From the stuff standpoint, I like Gregory Soto, but again, I don't know. That to me is like going down the road of Hansel Robles a few years ago. Like the idea of Hansel Robles is way better than the execution of Hansel Robles.
Maybe Alcala is the execution of Hansel Robles.
Probably.
So Alcala, he goes through some periods where he's obviously lost and he's you get up another home run. But maybe Soto is like a left-handed Alcala.
Yeah, that could be.
Well, one of those two guys would be interesting, and I think and you gotta love a guy named Hobie because it sounds like we're gonna go surfing.
And they just Hobie Harris, who was in the organization last year, just signed a minor league deal with somebody else. So it would
make them Hobarts?
Well, I mean, it would be a Hobie for Hobie swap. I don't know. Your execution of Hansel Robles reminds me.
I didn't mean to do that. He's dead. What happened?
It reminds me of, hey, coach, how did you feel about your team's execution? I'm in favor of it. And then, no, look, a college
your joke there.
A college coach did that, and then people didn't get it, and they're like, "Why are you executing college players?" And it's like, no. It's just an old joke.
Yeah, who was that? It wasn't Gundy, was it?
It might have been like Gundy or Leach or somebody, one of those kind
I
of.
think it was Leach.
Love that guy. He's the one that passed away, right?
I think so.
Mike Leach? Yeah, so dearly departed. Well, yeah, so lefties, if they insist on getting Rocco a lefty, there's some pretty fun names here that can throw the baseball, spin the baseball a little bit. Let's take our final break. When we come back, we'll try to be quickly, but probably won't be good at it. Look at some right-handed relievers. But again, first, our final word from sponsors today. And those sponsors that we love so much in this instance is FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. You can get ready to tackle the NFL action with America's #1 sportsbook. That's right. That's FanDuel, because right now FanDuel is offering new customers $150 in bonus bets if their first $5 bet wins. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets all in one place. You just fire up that app when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, and you can place your bets. You can look at live stats. You can view live play-by-play. It's all in one place. It's like having a little red zone channel in your back pocket. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet hits. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Now, it's hard to really get a good feel for right-handed relievers and like knowing who's going to be available and who you're going to want and all that. So I'm going to read off the list. It's it's probably like 20, 25 deep, including 2 Twins. So we'll talk about them. We'll talk about a player who I've been banging the table for. But that does not sound good, does it?
Well, just because it starts out when you say a player I've been banging. I'm like, that's none of our business, Brandon.
Even banging the table doesn't sound great. I mean, it sounds like kind of a TLC show.
Why did you choose that phrase?
I don't know. It's because that was our title for shows last go
Why?
around. I don't know. Pounding
Why
the
wasn't
table.
our title?
Would pounding the table have been any better? I mean, the mind wanders. The mind wanders. It doesn't make it any better. You know, it's more along the lines of this is like a TLC My Weird Fetish show, and I'm not trying to make it like that.
Were they in? Was Lisa Left Eye into weird stuff like burning your house down?
Burning shoes in a bathtub that burns the house down, right?
Was that an accident? I thought it was on purpose.
I thought she burnt the shoes in the bathtub, and then the rest of the house just kind of went up in flames.
All right. Well, you sound like a good lawyer, so I.
And I'm defending somebody who's no longer here to be defended. So, the relievers of note here: Justin Anderson of the White Sox, $1.1 million; David Bednar of the Pirates, $6.6; Aniel de los Santos, $1.7 million. He's a White Sox. Camilo Doval, $4.6 million of the Giants. Scott Efros, formerly of the David Ross Cubs, but with the Yankees at $900K. Ian Jabot, briefly a Twin in the 40-man roster for $800K. He's with the Reds. Hunter Harvey, $3.9 million with the Royals. Carlos Hernandez, $1.2 million with the Royals. Donnie Jimenez of the A's, $1 million. Alex Lang of the Tigers, $1.3 million. Former Twin Derek Law, $3 million with the Nationals. Justin Lawrence with the Rockies, $1 million. Mark Leiter Jr. with the Yankees, $2.1 million. Hang with me here. We're halfway through. Julian Merriweather, Cubs, $1.3 million. Luis Patino of the Padres, $800K. Zach Crackle and Pop with the Blue Jays, $1 million. Tanner Rainey of the Nationals, $1.9 million. Sean Reed Foley, who I was certain was a lefty, of the Mets, $900K.
Down by the river.
Yeah, well, I thought the Twins should trade Irvin Santana for him when he was with the Blue Jays like 9 years ago. Jordan Romano of the Blue Jays, $7.75. Jose Ruiz, 1.22 with the Phils. Josh Spores, 1.3 with the Rays.
Fire some spores.
Cole Sulcer, not to be confused with what Dave drinks during the shows, which are seltzer waters. Rays, $1 million. Eric Swanson, a favorite of mine, $3.2 million with the Blue Jays. Former top prospect Dylan Tate with the Blue Jays, $1.9 million. A lot of Blue Jays on this list. Mason Thompson of the Nationals, $800K. Michael Tonkin of the Twins, $1.5 million. Justin Topa, $1.3 million, also of the Twins. Austin Voth, $2.2 million. And last, and I don't think least, but maybe Steven Wilson of the White Sox, $1 million. Who stands out to you? Because for me, Eric Swanson is a permanent resident of the city I grew up in. I grew up in very far northern Minnesota. And I think if he gets non-tendered, he would love to be a Twin. He spent time growing up in West Fargo. I think that he is coming off a bad enough year too, where the we can fix him potential is going to be huge for the Twins. They love that. I am going on record as saying Eric Swanson gets non-tendered and he is a Twin by not by sundown, but in fairly short order.
I'm not sure what his physical ailment was. I know we've talked about this before. He had a very difficult beginning to the season just because his son was involved in I don't know if it was hit and run, but he was hit by a car in spring training.
Yeah.
And that just, that messes you up from the beginning of the season. I can't imagine trying to go to work, with that kind of on your mind. The two guys, there's two guys, and Swanson's one of them, who on this list who are very intriguing. I just don't know where they're at physically. The other one is Jordan Romano, and you have to pronounce it correctly, Brandon.
Romano, sorry.
Romano. He's a Canadian Italian, so it's Romano. It's not Romano. It's a kind of a weird phenomenon. Those guys, if Swanson could get his splitter back, that was his pitch that was off a lot last year. That's where he lost a lot of his value in the splitter. And Jordan Romano, no, I hope you're sitting down. His slider, it wasn't good. But 2 years ago, it was great. He's one of the better relief pitchers in the league. Really, I mean, that's not even hyperbole. I think those two guys are very clearly the two most talented players on this list. Now, I don't know if they're the healthiest, but those are the guys. I think you can't go wrong in this day and age in baseball, young Brandon, with adding more high-end, relief pitchers. So Romano definitely is a high leverage guy. Swanson, I believe, is too. He doesn't have quite the pedigree, but it's a little bit of a shorter career as well. But I think if you're close, if you know anything about those two guys, their health, that's where you could add a really good player to the end of the Twins bullpen, and that would make the team better. And it would put you in position where, if you wanted to trade Joan Duran or whatever, you could do it. So I think they're maybe the two most talented pitchers that are available in any form, left-handed reliever, starter, whatever, in this group of players.
There's two more too. Camilo Doval, when he's right, is very, very good.
Can't throw strikes. Had problems throwing strikes even when he was getting people out.
Right.
And couldn't, they took him out of the closer role. I mean, the guy, he's sort of like, he throws 100 miles an hour, but he just doesn't.
Magnified Joan Duran's issues 11.
Yeah. It's like if Joan Duran had just no idea what he was doing, it's Camilo Doval.
Yeah. Here's another one. Hunter Harvey, I kind of like.
Can't stay healthy.
Yeah.
Absolutely can't stay healthy.
But I mean, that's again, if you were to
habitually can't stay healthy, maybe has never been healthy. I'm just saying these other guys with injuries, they've been players that have gotten hurt. Hunter Harvey was born hurt, so I don't know.
And his old man is Brian Harvey, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Brian Harvey was nasty. He was funny too. He looked like a trucker.
Yep, kind of like a dollar store Rod Beck.
Yeah, he was great though. Rod Beck was amazing because he didn't walk anybody. Hunter Harvey, he was an old split finger fastball guy, and he was kind of had a Fu Manchu going, and he was nasty as heck out of the bullpen. God, he was good.
I didn't mention too about Milner that I liked was grounders, and I kind of like to see that from relievers too. Now I know the Twins have skewed fly ball pitchers in recent years, and it helps to have Byron Buxton and Max Kepler chasing down fly balls, and target field plays big-ish. But I don't hate the idea of having a guy who can get a ground ball for you, like a Dylan Tate or someone. Tate, obviously, big arm talent from going very highly in the draft. I want to say third or fourth overall in 2015. Now that's almost a decade ago. But
Hunter Harvey and Dylan Tate definitely have that thing in common where they can't stay on the field, but they're both very talented players. For sure.
Where do you stand on David Bednar? That's the last one I'll ask you about before we get out of here.
I don't have any idea why he was bad. You know what? Here's the thing. I don't know why he got good, and then I don't know why he got bad. And those two things happening didn't make any sense to me whatsoever. So I was like, all right, so David Bednar is going to be good. He's going to go to the All-Star game, blah, blah, blah. And then it's gone. And then last year, I don't know where he went. So I think that is a story of so many relief pitchers. And I also think I suspect it has something to do with how we treat relief pitchers as a class, as a caste, where we kind of treat them like the Rays do. we make fun of the Rays for being hard on relief pitchers, but I think everybody is hard on relief pitchers, and I think that's why you have things happen like David Bednar, where he comes out of nowhere and then goes right back to nowhere.
Giving me a distinct Matt Capps vibe.
Cheater, crow hopper. Matt Capps.
That's Carter Capps.
Oh, it was?
Mm-hmm. Matt Capps was the big guy that the Twins traded for in 2010, and then he
brothers?
I don't think so. Matt Capps, a big old guy. After the last game in 2011, when we were talking to players, he pretended he had to get something out of the top of his dugout, or not his dugout, his locker, and had his butt hanging out and was trying to be funny. And he's a very funny guy, very unique.
That's funny. Guy. I like that. I like that kind of humor.
So. Yeah, so it's like his butt crack was out. But the Twins had John Roush.
Down on the table.
Yeah, the Twins had John Roush, so Matt Capps didn't give them that much different, and they traded Wilson Ramos for him. So you can't say Matt Capps.
I love Wilson Ramos.
Yeah, without running for your life. Well, there's a lot of pitching. There is, I'm sure one of these guys will end up with the Twins in some form or fashion, but the ability to figure out which one you're going to pull a name out of a hat might be Luis Patino, might be Zach Pop, might be Oscar Inoue, but we'll see what happens. This has been fun to just kind of break down and bang the table for some of our favorite names on the list. That's a wrap. We have run way long with this one. He's Dave Brown. I'm Brandon Warren saying thank you so much for hanging out with us here on Locked On Twins. Happy birthday, Ken Griffey Jr. Hope you blow out all 55 of those candles. That's
a lot of wind.
Yeah, and we'll see ya
tomorrow
night.
See ya tomorrow night.
See.
We're almost out.